This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop about research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared from our students, faculty, and other members of our USC community.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices, the podcast. As usual, I am one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma. I am the Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
And hi, everyone. My name is Emily Powist, and I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering.
And joining us again is, I think, a returning guest on the podcast, Mark, right? You've done this before, right?
I've actually never been on the podcast before.
Have you never been on the podcast? It took you this long? Wow.
Been here 3 years and my first time.
Years and years and years. And we'll introduce yourself for your first time.
Hey, everybody. My name is Mark. I am a senior studying mechanical engineering. I'm from Diamond Bar, California.
And Mark, I see you calling you out. You're rocking the AirPods Max, right? Or is that what they're called?
Yeah.
How do you like those?
I love them. I got them after interning at Apple this summer, and they're literally one of the best purchases I could have ever made.
I'm so curious, whether I would like them, because I used to have these, right? Well, I don't wear them regularly. I only wear them for podcasting. These are the Beats Studio, and I used to wear them all the time. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Then I got my AirPods. I'm like, no, these are the best things ever, and I put these away at a shelf. And now I'm like, should I go back to over the head type of headphones? Walk me through in-ear pods versus we're gonna I don't care what we're recording today. We're talking about headphones today.
Yeah, so I actually have the first gen, second gen, and the AirPod Maxes, but I really use them for different cases. So if I'm biking to school, if I'm working out, I'll use the AirPod Pros. But if I'm at my desk or traveling, I'll definitely use the Maxes. Yeah. And I would say any home use, the Maxes are a little bit better because the transparency mode, you kind of forget they're on your head because it's so good. I could be playing something in the background and I can still hear my roommates perfectly. But if I switch it off, I don't even hear the gardener in the background. It's crazy.
Okay. So now you're helping my case of whether I want to spend more money. Because I like my AirPods Pro, but I don't like them in my ears all day. And so I don't wear them while working. And they really bug me, but working out totally and all that jazz. But yeah, maybe I need to get those for just hanging around. Emily, do you weigh in on this? Do you feel one way or the other?
I'm kind of embarrassed. I did not know what the AirPod Maxes were.
It's what Mark is wearing right now.
Yeah, I feel like an old person. I was like, oh, the new technology. But I have the AirPod Pros and I love them. I can't hear anyone when I have them in. And I think it makes me it's kind of dangerous, to be honest.
Yeah. It's kind of also kind of dangerous because, well, not dangerous, but it's funny. If you're on the phone, if you're around somewhere, people don't know I'm on the phone, and they'll walk up to me I'm working, I'm doing something right now. I'm listening. Anyway, that was important, right? Mark, let's get to why you're really here and help our listeners understand a little bit more about what this episode's all about.
Yeah, of course. So in this episode, I bring in two of my friends. One is actually my roommate. So Francisco and Cori, they are an astronautical student as well as a former astro student and a current mechanical engineering. And this episode really dives into all things astro. So there's two clubs on campus, the Rocket Propulsion Lab, as well as the Liquid Propulsion Lab. And on these clubs, they really just design rockets as well as launch them. The Liquid Propulsion Lab competes in competitions, whereas the RPL, it really competes with itself, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And it really is trying to show prospective students what life is like as an astronautical student at USC.
That's awesome. Well, let's get out of the way and hand it straight over to you to talk about RPL, LPL, and everything astronautical engineering, space, and beyond. And then we'll see you on the back end of this conversation for more important tidbits and tips about headphones. And of course, also a little bit about what we're going to do. Spoiler alert, this is the last episode of the year because the semester is winding down, but we're going to talk about what we're going to do on the back end. So let's give it off to Mark, and then we'll see you on the other side.
Sounds good. Joining me today, I have Cori and Francisco. Thank you both for being here with me today to talk about RPL and LPL. I know we don't get a lot of Astro students on the podcast, so I feel it'll be a great crossover episode to really talk about, all things Astro. So why don't you both start off with introducing yourself, maybe name, major, year, where you're from, any clubs that you're a part of on campus.
I'm Cori. I'm currently a senior studying mechanical engineering. I was originally astronautical engineering though, and I'm minoring in occupational science. I'm currently the composites lead of USC's Rocket Propulsion Lab, and I'm from Orange County.
And my name is Francisco Rodriguez. I'm a senior studying astronautical engineering, and then I'm doing PDP or a master's in engineering management. And I am from Frisco, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And I'm in LPL, Liquid Propulsion Lab.
Perfect. So why don't we both start off, saying what RPL and LPL is, what they do, and how you kind of got involved in it.
Okay, I can go first. Well, I started off actually in RPL. I was just a general team member, but I eventually left and went to LPL. Liquid Propulsion Lab is an organization in which works on the development of liquid flight vehicles and liquid engines. So we do everything from testing for actual aerospace companies all the way to doing our own projects and doing our own work. So we have a couple different projects going on at the moment that range from a couple different main concepts, but most of them are directed around research for one of the projects we have is research for the Aerospace Corp. And then another project we have is developing a flight vehicle that is going to compete in this year's dollar per foot challenge. So it's just a challenge that goes on every year, and they just compete with local universities and local organizations that build rockets, and they just try to see who can go the highest, and they award them obviously $1 per foot. So those are just some of the couple projects that we're working on at the moment. But I just joined this semester, so I'm really getting my hands dirty and really jumping in quickly. But yeah, so I guess that's what the club does overall. Me as an individual component of that, I thus far have just been working on developing a detaching mechanism for the flight vehicle. So all of your lines for fluid and oxygen that go into your flight vehicle, they need to be disconnected as soon as the vehicle takes off. So my job was to design and construct eventually the actual design of how that would happen. So my design was basically a pressure actuator, which would disconnect all of the quick disconnects. So that's what I've been working on thus far. I've also been working on the sizing for a couple components in the feed system on the flight vehicle. And yeah, hopefully we can finish that up soon and go to a decent altitude of 40,000 feet.
So where Rocket Lab is a little bit different is that we focus on solid rocketry as opposed to liquid engines. And we were actually the first all-student built team to send a rocket to space past the Kármán line. And that was Traveler 4, which is an R-class motor. We kind of pride ourselves in making everything in-house. So from our nozzles to our case, to our propellant, to our avionics unit, everything is done by students. And it's a lot of fun for us. What I personally do is on composites is make the case, the nozzle, the fins, and the nose cone that will eventually become our rocket. Right now, we're working on a Kiwi campaign, which is where we cast 4-inch grains of different propellant and we static fire them. And we see how what kind of data they produce and whether or not we want it to become our large rocket motor. And we call it a Kiwi campaign because it's a static fire, which means that we strap it down to the ground and fire it, and Kiwis are flightless birds. So it's not flying anywhere. But this Kiwi campaign is an important step for our current development project, which is called Dome Piercer. And this rocket's goal is to go further than and higher than Traveler 4 did. which is basically right to the edge of where we're allowed to go to space legally by the FAA. And we're really excited about this one. We had 2 previous static fires that were full length motors, and our motors are about 86 inches long and our cases are 110 inches long. And unfortunately, both static fires ended in a failure of the case and the propellant. So we designed a new case and we designed new propellant, and we're hoping to have a successful static fire in January.
So when you say failure, what do you mean by that, Cori?
A loss of the case. So for Earth Shaker, which was our first static fire, it was kind of a slow burn through at the forward end of the vehicle. And for Earth Shakier, which was our second, it was a very aggressive explosion. We joke that we got the altitude record for static fire. So yeah, hopefully the next one stays on the ground and doesn't burn through or blow up.
Awesome. Thank you. So I know, Cisco, you mentioned that you guys take place in competitions. Does RPL kind of take place in competitions, or kind of what does that look like?
No, we really just focus on doing things that we enjoy. So right now that's pushing to build a better rocket than Traveler 4. In the future, though, we have thought about entering some competitions. There was a competition my freshman year, which was to pass the Kármán line with a rocket built by a student design team, but they ended up changing it to liquid propulsion instead of solid propulsion since Rocket Lab was so close. And we haven't really had a liquid team that's taken off yet, since Rocket Lab is also currently working on a liquid design vehicle, but we're a lot further behind than LPL.
Nice. Yeah. So how does a new student kind of get involved in some of these clubs? Is there like an application process, or what does that look like?
So Rocket Lab, you can actually join early. If you go to our website, there's a mailing list that you can sign up for, and then you can get the emails for that. And we also table at all of the Viterbi clubs. And the best way to get involved with Rocket Lab is to just show up to our build hours. We're located in RRB, and we do build hours every single day from 6 to 9. And you can always show up because there's always stuff going on, which is some of the cool things about Rocket Lab, is that we don't have an application fee. Like, there's no application. Like, anyone who wants to join can join and do work. So definitely join.
That's actually really awesome that you don't have any like barriers to entry. Kind of, if you want to get experience, anyone can really join. I know we had that business student at one time.
Yeah, we get a lot of majors. You don't have to be in the AME department to join. We have a chemical engineering student. Like you said, we had a business student join. If you're interested, it's fun, and you don't need any experience at all, which is also nice. We'll teach you how to do everything. So it's one of the great clubs to like get started, especially manufacturing wise.
Yeah, and I can go next on that regard. So Liquid Propulsion Lab, it's kind of similar in the fact that you don't need too much experience when you join. It's a lot of working together and collaborating to help everyone learn. And that's one of our main topics, is like, we are trying to produce something cool and do some really good stuff as far as publications or doing good work for companies or ourselves. But in the end of the day, it's all about what we're learning. And, if we can disperse that knowledge to everyone in the group, that's our main goal. But the application process for Liquid Propulsion Lab, it's somewhat more of a tedious process than RPL. You do need some past experience regarding some kind of flight vehicles, or hopefully even some feed systems, if you have any experience with that. We are actually a graduate club and organization, so I don't know what the percentage is, but almost all of our members are actually grad students. But we do have some undergrad, such as myself. But the application process really looks like, you go to our website, which is usclpl.com. And by the way, if you're not even in the club, you can still follow all the stuff we do on there. But essentially, you can go on there and go to contact or join, and you essentially just reach out to one of the lab leads and express your interest. They'll look into your application, read it over a little bit, see if you're a good fit for the club, and then ask you to interview. And then following the interview process, if you are a good match and we feel like you'd benefit our organization, we feel like it'd be a mutual benefit, then you're part of the club and then you get started right away. But yeah, so that's what the joining process for LPL looks like. A little bit different than RPL, but still great benefits and great opportunities.
I actually didn't know that, Cisco, that it's a graduate club on campus. So, yeah. How big is the club versus, RPL? Because I know RPL is like one of the larger student design teams on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one of our challenges. And I guess also at the same time, one of our biggest benefits to joining LPL is, well, although it is a graduate level club or organization, it differs from RPL in the fact that there's a lot less members. RPL, I don't really know what you guys count is, but it's definitely up there. They have a very large, group chat or communications there between all the members. But for us, it's fairly small. I'd probably have to estimate probably in the order of like 20 to 30 people max. From there, reasonably, I see probably, maybe like 10 consistent people in person every week, or multiple times a week. And then from there, probably about another 10 to 15 that are always joining online simply because they work in industry and either Zoom in or do work remotely and come into the lab sometimes. But that's one of the big benefits, right? Is although I don't get to see every single person in the club multiple times during the week and really get that face-to-face interaction with them, I really do get to learn as much as possible, not just from a perspective of other students learning, but also from the perspective of actual people in industry. For instance, like one of the my fellow teammates, he works over at SpaceX. His name's Michael. He works over at SpaceX, and he actually came in a week or two ago, and I got the opportunity to show him around LPL, show him around the lab a little bit, show him around campus actually, because that was actually his first time on campus. But he was actually just detailing what he does at SpaceX and really giving me the details about his work, what he's done, like how he's gotten to get to where he's at, following his undergrad studies and now him doing his graduate. But it's just one of the benefits. You get that new perspective of people in the actual industry.
Yeah, Rocket Lab is definitely very large. I honestly don't know how many people we have on my sub team alone. I probably regularly see 20 people, and I'm just one of, I think, about 7. So there's definitely a lot of people, and there's a lot of things to get done. So there's always an opportunity to do things, even if you don't know anything and you're showing up on your first day. And because we have so many sub teams, there's really something for everyone. If you're more like electronics inclined, we have avionics, which also encompasses coding. We have data acquisition, we have simulations, we have composites, propulsion, machining, and recovery. So those are our major sub teams. So there's really something for everyone, which is very exciting. And yeah, all of those sub teams definitely have a lot. So our involvement is very high.
So why did you both initially want to join RPL and LPL respectively? And kind of how did you go about choosing what design team you wanted to be on, like composite lead for Cori or kind of whatever you do, Cisco?
Yeah, definitely. I can go first in that regard. So, talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm currently a new, just joined, and I'm a fairly new member, but most of my work has primarily served the flight vehicle. So a lot of my work has been to design the quick disconnect system. Like I said earlier, just disconnecting the fuel lines and oxygen side from the actual flight vehicle when it takes off, like umbilical cords, and then also sizing different components for the actual feed system. So for instance, the one I'm working on now is called a cavitating venturi. It's essentially just a component that goes pretty much near the engine to negate the effects of what's called a water hammer. I don't know to get too into it, but basically it's just it's a converging and diverging section in the fuel lines and oxidizer lines, which just mitigate the effects of back pressure going up. And so you get the optimal mass flow rate into the engine. So that's what I do for LPL. How did I get interested in it? I've had some past experience working with different feed systems or different, being around different rockets being developed. For instance, last summer I was working over at a company called Whitting Hill Aerospace. They're a small company, a startup about an hour north, but they actually just started building their first self-funded vehicle. It's a hybrid rocket, and their whole goal is to carry small satellites to low Earth orbit. So I was involved a little bit in there and just getting my hands a little bit dirty as far as designing some different processes for, I guess, faster manufacturing of rockets, and then also being able to integrate their actual rocket and feed systems there. So I took what I learned there and got really interested in feed systems and the actual flight vehicle itself, and took it to LPL and just am trying to run with it. So that's what I've been working on thus far, and that's how I got interested in it.
Yeah, so I first heard of Rocket Lab in my Astro 101 class, and the two leads at the time had come in with one of the rockets that they had built earlier, and I thought that was super cool. So I was hooked from the start of freshman year, that very first week. And I stuck around because I took a very large interest in materials, and USC actually doesn't offer a materials science undergraduate, which I was pretty disappointed with. So now I'm doing my master's in it. And that's part of the reason that I switched to mechanical engineering, is because of how much I liked materials. And I felt like I really got more exposure to that with mechanical than astro. So that's kind of where my interest in composites came from. I thought that they were super cool. I really liked learning about them and figuring out which material was the best and really optimizing them, which is why I took such a large interest in composites and am currently working on a dev project, which is a ceramic matrix composite. Those are pretty cool because they're super lightweight but can take heat very well, as well as fatigue. So they're a little bit better than metals, and they're actually quite common now in race cars, especially in brakes and in engines. And my interest in composites really took me to then work at SpaceX for a year. I was working in the composites assembly and integration department, which encompassed both the Dragon and Falcon 9 composites. I particularly liked working with Dragon's composites because they were high temperature, and SpaceX makes a lot of their composites in-house. So seeing that process, seeing how they worked with them, and seeing how much better they made their structures really caught my interest and made me stick around. In terms of what I do for Rocket Lab, I'm working on that dev project that I mentioned earlier, and I'm helping build and design the new case for Dome Piercer. We actually just built our static fire case and had the design review for that about a month ago. And anything else that I need to build for our rocket to work.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually did want to circle back. You guys both mentioned you had past internships, and I think we really take for granted that being in Los Angeles is like a great hub for the aerospace and astronautical industry. But can you go through some past internships that you've both had, and kind of like, did these clubs help you out with getting them, or kind of what were your roles in those positions?
Yeah, being in LA is definitely huge. The aerospace industry is just really popping off here. So it's definitely a great place to be if that's your interest. And being in Rocket Lab helped me get both of my internships. So originally, at the end of my sophomore year, I worked at Stellar Exploration, which is a startup in San Luis Obispo. And I got that through a Rocket Lab member. And then when I was working at SpaceX, I also got that opportunity from knowing someone that worked at SpaceX. And what's really cool about Rocket Lab is I think the senior class above mine funneled like 10 people into SpaceX. So it's really, we joke that it's like a feeder straight into industry there.
That is really impressive.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that go from SpaceX or from Rocket Lab into SpaceX. So being in Rocket Lab helped me networking wise, but it also helped me with actually learning how to do things. Unfortunately, like in your first 2 years, you don't really do a lot of manufacturing, which is super relevant to industry. So I was able to get hands-on and kind of got a leg up in the competition by being able to figure out how you actually build things, how you machine things, how you do layups, which was really helpful. At Stellar, I didn't really do as much material science work as I would have liked to have, but I still loved working there. It was cool working at a startup because I was able to feel like my work was more meaningful and like it was going to be used after I left. And I really felt like I was part of the family there, even though I was only temporary. And working at SpaceX was also cool because I got to see how big companies function, which is very different. But I am glad that I was able to get both experiences because both of them have helped shape me and become a better engineer and a better person in Rocket Lab and a person just in general.
I would have to completely agree with what Cori said, almost in all regards. First and foremost, or first point, aerospace industry and especially astronautical, being astronautical engineering and even any really aerospace, Los Angeles is the place to go. It is, as Cori said, popping off. There's definitely a lot of companies here. It's definitely a center for, a lot of our industry. So it's great to actually go to school here and great to have the connection so close. Being someone from Dallas, coming out here was a hard decision to come this far, but I think definitely one that was worth it. Regarding internships and actually going into the club, I think my experience was a little bit opposite of Cori's, in the aspect that my organization, especially because I've just joined it, didn't really help to get those internships, but rather the opposite, at least for this so far. So I've interned at Northrop Grumman sophomore year of college. And then after that, this last year, I interned at Winning Hill Aerospace. So for those of you who may not be familiar, Northrop Grumman is what they would consider almost like old aerospace. It's a fairly large corporation and one of the central and main ones, aside from like Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and all the Lockheed Martin, all the really giant ones that, have been here forever. Starting there and then interning at such a small startup such as Whitting Hill Aerospace, our intern class of 5 represented more than half of the company, seeing as how I was the owner, his son, who basically was also another owner, and then their full-time engineer, and then just the interns, and then obviously machinists, but that's it. So definitely 2 really great perspectives to get to learn from. Same as Cori said, they offer different experiences overall. I did like my time at the startup world just because my work was, I had more opportunities to really push my work and make it go further, in the sense that I could actually take ownership of a project or take ownership of, the work that was being done, and that the next person that would come in would be able to point to it and say, okay, it's great work done. This is who it was done by, and I can continue from their work. Instead of Northrop Grumman, it was very, working in large groups, and you always, get specified into such a specific role, just working in such a large corporation that sometimes, you don't really get the experience that a startup brings. So definitely being involved with both really helped out to gain my, credentials or experience to get into LPL, but hopefully from here, it'll work back the opposite direction. So I've, used those internships to get into LPL, but hopefully now LPL will help me to go backwards and actually get a full-time job come graduation.
That's actually really impressive that both of you have, one, secured 2 internships, but that you both got a startup kind of environment as well as a large corporation. So I don't want to compare the companies, but what are the benefits of a startup versus a large corporation, and what do you guys both prefer?
That's a good question. I think that the major difference is, I need a minute. Cisco, you go first.
Okay. I can hit this one. I'd say the biggest difference for me was, I guess, I'll go with the pace. I'm someone who is pretty energetic and wants to do good work and have meaningful impact in this world. Just overall with whatever I do, with my career, different future of my life or whatever. And I feel like a startup can really give you that. You're such a small company that the real motivation for that company just started and sees a real overarching goal that this small company is headed towards, that you can really fight and work towards that. I feel like a large company, everyone has their place in the industry, and for some people it's definitely better for them for a large corporation or smaller corporation. But a large corporation, I feel like a lot of the times, because you have such a large group that you're working with and so many different projects, that you might get pigeonholed into a very specific role, which for some is great. They love to do that one thing and want to work on multiple projects. So I feel like that's a great role for them. But I feel like with a startup, you get to diversify your workload and work on a variety of different projects. And you really got to be a balanced individual, and especially an engineer, as far as all the different tools that you need to get the job done. One day you might be a designer, and the next day you might need to go integrate and need to go get hands-on dirty. And that's just not an experience you can get at such a large corporation, or at least in my experience. So I feel like it's a major difference, and one that should definitely be looked into if you're interested in toe tapping your way into the industry in one or the other.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. What was super cool about the startup is that, like Cisco mentioned, you could really do anything you wanted to do. So if one day you wanted to be a design engineer, you could be, and then the next day you could be a propulsion engineer. And so it was really whatever you made of it, and you were able to push your projects as far as you wanted to push them. And it was really cool to be able to see things get finished. Whereas at a big company, you don't really get as much of an opportunity to switch between different types of engineers, and you're more pigeonholed into a specific project. I do think that my experience was a little bit different because at SpaceX, things do move very quickly. So it was kind of like a startup environment, just with a lot more money. I liked both experiences. I can't say that I had a favorite one. They're just very different. I think it depends on the person a lot. You can be overwhelmed pretty easily at such a fast-paced company. So that's kind of where I preferred the startup, but I enjoyed my work more at the larger company. And I felt like some of the ideas that I had at the larger company weren't as likely to get pushed through, or they were forgot about more quickly. So that was a little bit disappointing. And that's where working at a startup was preferred. But both experiences, I think, were great. And I think that working at both is a great idea to figure out which you prefer.
That's really cool. Thank you both for sharing. Bringing it back to kind of the clubs, what is one of your favorite memories in, both clubs?
I guess I can start with this one. I am a new member, so I don't have a lot of members to draw from just yet, but I had a really good one today. We had our general meeting today, just like we do every week on Mondays. And one of the best memories I think I've had even thus far is watching the change of leadership move, just because they get to look back at all their memories. It was good to see the lab leads look at all the work they've done and almost get a little teary-eyed when they had to leave. That really hit me, because I was like, these people are that passionate for their work and they love it that much. And I see the same thing in me. So I think I am in the right spot. That one just got to me today. 2 of our lab leads just, I guess as you could say, retired from the organization or lab, pushing the lab leads to someone else and new people. So I think that was a good moment for me. I really loved that. How about you, Cori?
There's since I've been in Rocket Lab since my freshman year, so it's kind of hard to pick just one. So to umbrella a bunch, I would definitely say all of the trips that we've gone on. In particular, my favorite trip was probably the Traveler 4 launch. So I was a part of the chase car, and basically what the chase car does is that it drives behind our trailer, which is hauling our rocket and everything that we have to bring out with us to the launch site. And the chase car kind of helps the person driving the trailer to switch lanes, since none of us are very good drivers. And so we were driving back from New Mexico. It was probably midnight, and I begged all of the upperclassmen to let me drive because I hadn't driven in so long since I'd been at USC. And they really didn't want me to. And then enough convincing, they finally agreed. And so we're driving back, and the trailer's probably going like 95 miles per hour, which is far too fast for a trailer to be going. And we also have a trailer that was decades old, and the previous launch had lost a tire. We were just hoping that this thing can get there and back into one single piece. And it did not get back into one single piece. As we're driving, part of the door flies off, comes and then smashes in the grill of the car that I'm driving. And I'm panicked because I'm like 2 hours into my drive. They finally let me drive, and everyone is passed out. So I'm like frantically trying to walkie-talkie the person driving as she's speeding away. And I've like pulled off, and they're like miles away from us, and stuff's just like falling out. We finally get them to pull over and catch up. And it took us like almost an embarrassingly long time to try and like fix the door. So we were trying all of these like engineering things. We're like, oh, let's use epoxy, let's use this, blah, blah, blah. We ended up settling on duct tape. So really duct tape kind of fixes all problems. That definitely had to be one of my favorite memories. And then recently this year, when we static fired Earthshaker, that was a case that I had designed, and it didn't work. But it was still like such a great moment for me to see something that I had built and thought about and worked on for months really come to life. And that's one of the things that is also super cool about Rocket Lab, is that you get to see your own ideas become reality. So even though it didn't work, it felt like so personal, where it feels like, oh, that's like part of me up there. And that was a really cool experience.
That's hilarious. I was actually the chase car for Poise, but my experience was nowhere similar to yours. I had heard about that, but that's so funny. Cisco, do you have any favorite memories from RPL during the time that you were there?
Yeah, I guess I have one. I remember going out to the middle of the desert and going for the casting session. That was pretty fun. I think it's a I don't know what the term for that is. It's a good and a bad memory, I guess. I remember
what is casting for everybody?
Yeah, sorry, I fill you in a little bit. So casting is essentially almost like you're packing the solid grain into the actual solid rocket like motor sections, so that you can compact it and develop that entire solid rocket motor booster when you integrate it all together. So the act of casting is like, putting it all together and putting the correct liners and correct I guess density of propellant into the actual sections. So I guess my best, or you can also say worst memory, I don't know, somewhere in between, is going out and casting and listening to this song that they listen to every single time they cast. I think it's an RPL tradition that's been there for I don't know how long, but essentially, I don't know if I give this away, but one of their, I guess, ways in which they do it is they basically roll the solid rocket motor propellant into like little balls. That way it can like fit better into the actual cylindrical area, and then before they pack it down. So rolling those balls, they play this song over and over and over, and they demand that it be played. And I don't even know the name of the song. Cori, do you remember?
No, do you have like a lyric?
I think it's like it's not Balls of Fire. It's like, I don't know. I can sing it though. It's like, okay, here we go. Ready? Yeah. I'm no artist, but it's it's basically saying like, oh, he's got big balls, yeah, she's got big balls, they're really big balls, or something like that. Like, it's just the most like whack song, but it like barely fits the moment because everyone's just like rolling these like solid rocket motor like little granular balls to pack down into the actual solid rocket motor booster. So it was like great memory because like everyone was just laughing, having a good time, but also like I couldn't get that song stuck in my head for like 2 weeks. So good time though.
Nice. Yeah, so switching it up a little bit. I know USC really prides itself in diversity and inclusion. I don't know if you all know, but we actually hit the gender parity in 2019 with 50% women and 50% men in the incoming class, which is really cool. But how has your perspective been in classes and clubs as a woman in engineering, as well as being a minority in engineering?
So I've definitely been very lucky in my experience that I've been very much welcomed by Rocket Lab and the other clubs that I've joined. I do know that some people aren't as lucky. And while we did hit the 50% enrollment, we don't retain that, which is an unfortunate byproduct of having mostly men in your class and almost all male professors. But what is good is that there are plenty of clubs that really support women and help them feel like they belong in this setting. So some clubs include Society of Women in Engineering, and there's also Women in Engineering. Both are great clubs with great resources. Rocket Lab has their own group chat specifically for women identifying people. And it's been really cool to be able to share experiences with people who have similar experiences. And while sometimes it can be a bit disheartening and frustrating, I think that USC has done a very good job really making me feel like I belonged here and making me feel included. And one of the things that I think can definitely help make you feel like you belong more is joining clubs by feeling like you're in a community, which part of the reason that I even stayed in engineering in the first place was because of RPL. And that's because I felt like I was in a community and like I belonged in a place that isn't really women heavy. So by doing those things, it really did help shape my experience and make choosing USC one of the best things that I've done.
Yeah, and from my perspective, coming in actually as a civil engineer, I definitely found that most of my classes were filled with a lot of minorities. And, just looking around and seeing, people that look like me, it just, it really, I guess, changed my perspective of what a typical engineer looks like. And that really, I guess, broadened my eyes to see that. But when I sat down and decided I did want to change majors and go to astronautical instead, when I changed majors, I was a little nervous, thinking, that minority population was only within civil engineers, but I actually found more so in astro. So that was to my surprise, first and foremost. But second, which joining LPL, I joined LPL with a notion that there wouldn't be many minorities, and I actually found, oddly enough, that within the organization, there's probably more Hispanics that I know that are part of this organization than I'd say almost any other organization I've been a part of at USC, with the exception of, SHIP, which is Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and Latino Alumni Association. Aside from those two, I feel like, oddly enough, LPL has such a large number of Hispanic individuals, which, was definitely a surprise to me and was really cool to see. So I really feel, welcome and honestly quite a bit at home. It's good to see.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing that. I know it is a little bit personal, but it gives people a great insight on like what the school is really like. And so last but not least, I don't want to keep you too long, but do you have any advice for prospective students on, how to get involved in the aerospace industry, or if they're thinking about, majoring in astronautical engineering?
If I go first, I'd love to hit this one. First and foremost, I would say, even before you know what you exactly want to do what you want to, like, do what you love, like, find your passion and find where it intersects with your strengths and just pursue that. I said this earlier, but I came into civil engineering and I found out, while I was pretty good at it, I didn't exactly enjoy it as much as I thought I would, and even not just like the future career path set out for me, but even like just the classes and coursework. I didn't really love what I was learning as much as I could learn elsewhere. So I honestly, this is a true story. I sat down at my desk freshman year in my dorm and I said, okay, I don't want to be a civil engineer. What am I going to be? And I told myself, like, I'm not recommending do this at all, but this is just the way I like handled it, is I told myself I wouldn't get up until I found the intersection of my strengths and my passions. And I honestly looked at every major USC offered, like, not even in engineering, just in general. And I found, well, I knew I was going to be an engineer, but, I just keep my open mind and looked everywhere. I found astronautical engineering to be the exact intersection. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So my advice is, don't be afraid to do what you want to do, even if you're late. If you're late to the party, or if everyone has experience or more so experience than you, they started earlier, it doesn't matter. I've always thought, if you do what you want to do in life and you've always pursued your passion, that success always comes and follows that. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything Cisco said, especially about being late to the party. When I applied to USC, I applied as an undeclared major, and I was undeclared for the first 2 years of my time here. And for me, I was really just trying to take a bunch of classes and figure out what I really liked. And I found out that I liked everything, so it's kind of hard to narrow it down. But when I really sat down and thought, what do I love? It really was waking up at 5 a.m. to go on a casting trip, or waking up at 5 a.m. to do a composite layup. And so that's kind of how I ended up choosing astro and then later choosing mechanical. And just by doing something that I love, I'm excited to do it. And that's why I spend so much time in Rocket Lab and how I've been so successful in it. And so really choosing something that you love, even if your friends aren't doing it, just doing what you love and what you care about is probably one of the best ways to be happy and enjoy what you're doing.
That's awesome. Thank you both for joining me on this podcast. It was great hearing about RPL and LPL, as well as, different student perspective on USC in general.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us. I love the opportunity to speak to a new prospective class. Good luck, guys, whatever you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me. For anyone interested, follow at USC RPL on Instagram and Twitter.
I can plug our website, usclpl.com. Definitely follow that and apply.
Let me ask this question. there's kind of a constant topic that comes up when students are looking at aerospace, astronautical, and mechanical. I mean, Mark, I know you've been part of this conversation in the past, but I want to make sure we ask it again in case this is where people are only hearing it. People don't know what to study. They're like, I don't know. I want to do that. I want to do that. They all seem very similar. What's the best advice to a high school student out there that's like looking at these different majors and seeing similarities, but seeing differences and worried about one thing versus the other? How should they go about choosing which program they want to go into?
That's a really good one. I would say, at least how I went about doing it, I joined the clubs.
Yeah. How'd you do it?
I really just joined different student design teams on campus and going to their weekly meetings, seeing what it's all about. It really gives you insight of what you would be doing in the industry, and then if you like it or not. And really getting that industry experience through internships or co-ops is a great way to kind of see if that's for you. So I know on this podcast, Cori and Francisco both did, some industry experience, and that kind of helped them confirm that's what they want to do. For Cori, it was actually kind of crazy how she started off as undeclared, then chose astro and thought it was a little bit too narrow, and then switched to mechanical. But she's still, focused on the, astronautical and aerospace industry, which is kind of surprising because you can go anywhere with it.
Yeah, and all these degrees, not a lot of difference in employment. I mean, students work side by side. In some situations, you're the mechanical engineering degree holder working on an astronautical engineering project and vice versa. So it's not the end of the world. It's not I think that's the problem, is that when you're coming out of high school, you think all right, I got to pick the degree program for exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. And that just doesn't happen, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let's get back to the serious topic. Okay. So we got AirPods Max, we got regular headphones. Emily, you're a fan of the AirPods. Mark, you're a fan of the AirPods Max, and you were interning at Apple. They just came out with these new AirPods. What should we know about what do you recommend? Do you need all of them?
I don't say you'd need all of them. I would say the 3rd gen AirPods, they're definitely not a replacement to the Pros. I don't know if you guys noticed the pricing. Yeah. It's at $179, I believe. Whereas the Maxes are still around $220. Not the Maxes, excuse me. While the AirPod Pros are still around $220. And so the AirPod 3rd gen is definitely a step up from the original AirPods, but I don't think it's meant to replace those Pros. And nothing can really compare to the Maxes. It's just a different experience.
Got it. Thanks for the insight. And that what's going on with you as far as you're in your senior year now. Do we have ideas? Am I putting you on the spot as far as what's going to happen after graduation? Do you know what's going to happen?
I'm actually staying for progressive degree. So I'm getting my master's in product development engineering and still looking for some internships right now. I did my internship at Apple in program management, and I want to kind of see if design's more of up my alley. So I'm applying to different positions there.
Sweet. Emily, do you have an update?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to do next year because I am taking a gap year before medical school. And I know you say that every weekend. I say that I'm going climbing, and I kind of wanted to take that a step further. I think I'm going to live in a climbing town next year.
What's a climbing town?
Well, the climbing place that I really like to go to is called Bishop, California.
Bishop,
it's a world-renowned climbing destination, but really mostly if you've been to Bishop, it's probably to drive to Mammoth or to go backpacking or something. So I go to Bishop
to go to the bakery. I forget the name of the bakery.
Oh, Schatz Bakery.
Schatz,
I do have to plug Schatz, but yeah, I'm thinking about living in Bishop next year and working as a scribe or an emergency medical technician.
A scribe?
And then
what's
a medical scribe.
I was like, you're just going to go around jotting things down?
Yeah, just jotting things down. Everything I noticed. But yeah, I'm excited because I kind of was interested in more rural medicine, and this gives me an excuse to live in a place that's rural and see if it's up my alley or not.
I feel like you're beginning on a journey that will end in some sort of CBS television show where you're Dr. Powis, rock climbing doctor, and you're the only one that can climb all the way up and administer the medicine. You're a very specific skill set.
I know I'm really going really hard into this because I'm taking an emergency medical class right now, actually, which I would highly recommend for pre-med students. The meds like classes are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But my professor is like one of the heads of the emergency medical department, and one of her residents is actually the head of wilderness medicine in Bishop.
Wow.
So I was like, maybe that's like my future. I can do something like that.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck to you. This is great. I can't wait to hear more updates as we get closer.
We'll see.
But for everyone, we teased it on the front end of this episode. This is the final episode of 2021. I can't believe we're wrapping up 2021.
Yeah.
It's December. Wow. I don't even know how to comment on this. You guys are going into finals. So we'll take a little break from the podcast. We might have an episode or two over the winter break, but I kind of doubt it, to be honest with you. And then we'll be back in January with new episodes in 2022. So everybody, if we're going dark for a little while, but it's okay. Everything will be okay. You can still go back over 242 episodes back and check out our archive if you're missing Viterbi Voices for the time being. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about when it comes to the podcast, Emily, as far as updates go and schedule?
Not really. I just want to formally go out there and say that like, I don't know if people that listen to the podcast know this, but podcast is like managed by me, but there's like 20 other students pretty much that like produce the podcast, and they just crushed it. I've been super happy with all the content coming, and like everyone's been super on top of it, which I really appreciate. And I think it's like really paying off for our listeners. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. And I can't thank you enough, Emily, for all the work that you're doing. And I know you're saying they do a lot of work and everybody does a lot of work, but Emily does do the most. I do want to make sure that everybody knows this. And people come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I love the podcast." I'm like, cool. I don't do anything with it. Like, I'm here every week, but this is the extent of my work. So I am very thankful for your work, Emily. Mark, it's great to have you on here, and of course with everyone else that's been producing content and creating episodes week by week by week. I think that this is the most prolific we've ever been. With I think, how many episodes have come out this year?
Oh, I don't even know. I should probably know
30
that.
or so.
Yeah, definitely a lot. We've been doing 1 to 2 a week, sometimes 3.
I'll have to put this I'll have to go back into our Wayback Machine and see, but I'm pretty sure that you just matched a whole year of the whole year of content in just your first semester, which is, I think, pretty amazing. So awesome job. We're going into the holiday break. What are your guys' plans for the holidays, for your winter break? What's going on, Mark?
Yeah, so my parents actually just moved, but their house in Florida isn't
To where?
finished being built. So
Florida?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I was talking to Emily a little bit earlier. Like they're hopping around in different Airbnbs for like a month on end. So they're gonna be in Montgomery, Alabama for winter break, and I will be in Alabama.
Interesting. Interesting. And what's the connection to Montgomery, Alabama? Is that where family is?
Nope, nothing.
You just picked a dot on the map?
Yeah, that's literally how they did it. My mom was like, "I've always wanted to go," and they went. So they leave this Saturday for Montgomery.
That's so cool.
Interesting. Cool. Well, I can't wait to hear how the holidays are in Montgomery, Alabama. At least it'll be kind of like a cool little like vacation. Like you've never been there before. Everything's gonna be new to you.
Yeah, it was like that for this past Thanksgiving break. Like we went out to Dallas for a little bit. That was their first destination, and just explored a little bit.
Awesome. That's great, man. Emily, how about you?
I'm just like a broken record. I'm going back
to climbing?
Colorado. Yeah, I'm going back to Colorado, meeting up with my climbing friends. We're thinking about possibly like renting an Airbnb and studying, or not studying, just like relaxing for break.
Okay.
Oh, and then I'll be diving into some medical school applications, which I'm really looking forward to.
I thought you were about to say you're going diving. I was like, wait a minute, that's water. It doesn't have rocks. I said not rocks in there.
I do. Contrary to the popular belief, I do like other outdoor sports, but not as much. What are you doing for break? I think I know though.
You think I know? Oh, so tell me, what am I doing?
You're going to be reading applications, right?
Yeah, we start. Yeah, you're right. We start reading. I really don't like doing that over break, although I do it. So I do a lot of procrastinating, which is basically like you get the applications all kind of set up and then you're like, oh, let's go check out what's happening on this website. And let's go, it's like basically like when you're studying for something you don't want to study for. You're like, oh, I got weeks before that exam. So it's just like lists of applications to start piling up and we start going through those. We're actually having our first meeting about that this week. So it's great. It's fun. It's always great when I'm done with it. Like when you get through and you get to know everybody. Starting, it's always the worst, right? It's like getting your head around this like giant book you're supposed to read. Like, when are you going to start reading that book? So there's that. And procrastinating always creates like different new random things that I end up doing and thinking about, which is always fun. Outside of that, we have no real hardcore plans. I mean, we're just kind of like hanging out. We're not going anywhere. Although we're getting really antsy, and we're like, I think my wife and I have planned 4 or 5 different trips in our head that we haven't actually pulled the trigger on, but we're like always talking about like, oh, maybe we can go there, maybe we go there. Because now McKay's vaccinated. She'll get vaccinated, her second shot next week, which is nice. That changes a lot for us because we haven't been on a plane or done anything since any of this started. But I think that once we do that, that'll be helpful. We'll be around, hitting up. I think we're going to Disneyland this week for the holidays to see some fireworks. We might even pull off with my sister and her kid a Universal trip just to see what that's like at the holidays. We've never really done that before. We got a Santa themed escape room planned.
Nice.
So have you guys done escape rooms?
Yeah.
Not in a while.
I've never done one. I have no idea what this is going to be like, but we're doing it with kids. So we're going to see it. I guess the whole concept is one of the kids' names ends up on the naughty list, and your whole job is to get them off the naughty list. And so it's that's going to be fun.
I feel like you're going to like this, Paul.
I'm totally going to dig it. Or it's one of 2 things. I'm going to be really into it, or be really frustrated and just like be pissed off and not want anything to do with it. But I have a feeling I'm going to be into it. It's going to be fun. Like we have these just like little things, like there's gonna be a drive-in movie night. There's little like activities here or there. I definitely at some point got to go see Spider-Man. Got to get that booked. We're gonna go do that. We went to our first movie over Thanksgiving break.
Nice.
That we haven't been to a movie in forever. We saw the new Ghostbusters movie, which I cannot say enough amazing things about. It was so awesome. I don't know if you guys have any interest, or have you ever even seen the first Ghostbusters? Like, this is the horrible part.
Yeah, we've watched the first, or I don't know about Mark, but
whoa, we're not that young.
Yeah.
You are that young. Do you know when the first Ghostbusters came out?
Ooh.
I don't know, but I had to watch that as a child.
The first Ghostbusters came out 37 years ago.
Oh.
Okay, maybe I am that young.
Yeah, you are that young. You're not. It came out in 1984.
Whoa.
Okay. And so I was telling my father-in-law that. They're like, well, that came out like 20 years ago. I'm like, no, it came out nearly 40 years ago. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's not that long ago.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
it's way longer ago than you think it is. 1984. But that movie was like such a part of my childhood. Like, I grew up with that film. Like, I remember the first time I saw it. I remember exactly where I saw it. I remember exactly who I was with. I remember everything about that movie. And so we went to go see that. And it was our first time at a theater. It was great because it was only like 8 people in the whole theater. We went to, which, by the way, props. I'm going way off tangent here, but we went to like a 1 p.m. showing at the Chinese theater in Hollywood. Have you guys seen a movie in the Chinese theater?
Mm-hmm.
Go do it. I mean, like, it's always an iconic theater. I used to love going there all the time when I was in college and even after that, but they've redone it. I don't know when they redid it, but it's now full IMAX, and it is an amazing theater for like sight, sounds, and all the other stuff. And you're in Hollywood, you get to see this really cool thing. So if you're going to go see Ghostbusters, I would go see it there because it's there right now. And that's fun because you got the footprints out front at Chinese theater. It's kind of a fun little experience. Anyways, it was so cool. I love that movie so much. I really want to see it again. And I'm excited to go see Spider-Man because it's like, yeah, movies are back and like we're getting out into the world again. So let's start doing stuff. So I think that's what we're doing for break, to answer your question, which is starting to like live life again, which is a weird thing. And then right now, oddly enough, on my screen, my family and I always do a somewhat I don't know, some would call it crazy, some would call it a little unorthodox, but we do really what I think are really awesome and fun Christmas cards, or holiday cards. And it's always a little bit different. Like one year we took crazy pictures of us and a bunch of Christmas activities, and the Christmas card said Christmas AF. Like that was our holiday card. Like we just sent that out. And then we did a couple other ones where we're all wearing vests and it says vest wishes for a holiday. But do you guys want to see you're going to be the only people in the world to ever see this. You want to see the holiday card for this year?
Oh yeah. I'm excited.
Okay. All right. Well, you got to give me the opportunity to share the screen. I can't do this.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Anyways, it's usually a little unorthodox. It's usually got its own element to it. Let's see what we can do. Ready? Here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty awesome, right?
How'd you get the
Is that your dog?
How did I get the dog? Well, we went to the shelter and we got the dog. What do you mean, how did I get the dog?
In the sweater. My dogs would
Wait,
never.
who did the Photoshop? It's so good.
That's us, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
So I'm not done yet designing it. We did the photo edits on it. But the cool part about it, the little secret is there is some Photoshop action going on here. You can't really tell where it is. But this is a mix of two different photos because I was not standing that way in one of the photos. So I had to like paint myself in from another photo. And then this picture where the dog is, in this particular photo, she was looking the other way, but in another photo, she was looking dead on. And so we cut her head out and Photoshopped it back into this one.
Wow, you did a really good job.
So should be pretty cool. We're working on this.
Ledesma Fiesta.
Oh yeah, that's our family hashtag. You don't have a family hashtag?
Oh, ours is Powis Power. So
see, you do. See, yeah.
It's not a hashtag though. We have like a special handshake and it ends with Powis Power at the end.
Well, okay. Now you need to. What's the special handshake, or is it secret?
It doesn't make sense like without another person. But it's been going for like 3 generations, and I don't know why my brother refuses to do it, but my dad and I keep it up.
How is power?
Yeah, you have to look like my dad's like just a really big goofball, and you have to look like super intense while you do it. So yeah.
See, I would make the if I was in the family, I would make the suggestion to be Pow Pow Powis.
I mean, that was my nickname all throughout high school was Pow Pow. So
well, it now is back. Here, Pow Pow. I didn't know that. Mark, did you have
just
any
too many Emilys? Yeah.
Mark, yeah, now it's Pow Pow. Do you have any nicknames, Mark?
Nicknames? I used to go by Marky Mark, but we don't have any like parent like
that just seems weird. That just seems weird to me. I don't like that on you. No, that tastes weird. Mark,
that's so mean saying he can't have his nickname.
It just doesn't sound right. He doesn't like it either.
Well, my grandma called me by it, so I liked it for the time.
Okay, if Grammy calls it that, yeah, I'm all for that. But like calling you Marky Mark, it makes me think like you're Mark Wahlberg, and that just doesn't sit right with me.
Do you have any nicknames, Paul?
No, I don't. I really don't. It's really funny. Like my dad's reason for naming me Paul, one of his reasons he told me, and I don't know if it's all BS. Most of the things is BS, but is that his name is Jacob, and he wants to go by Jake, and so he always got frustrated in his life that he would correct people to call him Jake, and so he wanted a name that couldn't be changed. Like there's not another version of it.
That's like honestly really true.
Right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
That like you don't want your name to be like ever altered?
No, I don't really care. My mom my mom's name is Shadi, which is a traditional Persian name, but growing up, like she didn't like people calling her like Shade. So she just like hated that, or people call her Shady. So she like when she had me, she was like, what are the most common American names that I can name my child? So no one messes up her name.
Interesting. It's really funny. You end up getting to this point where like whatever you grew up with, whatever your frustrations were, you actually try to like change that about your kid's name. I've heard that so many different times. And that basically for me, because I didn't have like a longer name or a shorter name, I did exactly the opposite to my daughter. And that we named her something that specifically had a shortened name as a result of it. Like her full name is McKagan, but we call her McKay. And that's on purpose because I always have like, I'm Paul. And the other thing about it is that my last letter of my first name and the first letter of my last name run together and people never hear it correct. And so it's always Paul Ledesma. It's like one word to the point of this has happened a few times, but I remember when I first started working in the engineering school, there was like an annual meeting of like, meet the new staff. And here's Paula Desma. Paula, where are you? Paula, where are you? Stand up, Paula. Like I was Paula Desma, or they never hear like it's Paul Desma or O Desma. And it's just, it annoys the hell out of me that my last name runs together with my first name. So when I never am going to name anybody with that when it runs together, it has to have specific points. It's all important topics this morning here on the podcast, right? We've gone all different directions.
We might have hit a record for longest intro outro ever. But
it's the holidays, right? We're going on for the last one for the season. We got to give them all sorts of little nuggets to go out with, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Or am I running past your time? Do you have to go?
I do have to go in like 10 minutes, but that's not related.
We got 10 minutes of topics. Marky Mark, what's your next topic?
I have no idea. That's way too far in the future.
Look at you, like making sure, like first time on the podcast. I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about. I don't know.
I'm just getting my feet wet here.
Are you guys ready for finals?
We'll see. We did my final presentation for my capstone. I don't know if you have a capstone, Mark, but I'm doing my senior project right now. So we did our final presentation yesterday and that went really well. So just have to wrap it up.
This should be a lesson for first year students. This is how seniors treat finals. Like whenever you're a first year student, like you're ready for finals, like, oh my God, I got to get ready for these finals. These finals are coming up. And like seniors like, I don't know, we'll see.
I have way too many deadlines.
We'll take it as it comes.
Like this Thursday, Friday, I have 4 final presentations / final papers. And like, why didn't you just make them on the final days? Like they cut out the finals and instead made them.
It's because of the USC rule, because they can't have assignments over study days.
It's just so whack. Because now I only have 2.
Actually, I talked to a lot of my professors were like, we'll give you an extension because we don't care if you submit it later. Mm-hmm. We just like technically because of USC rules, we can't do it over study days. So you should ask them honestly.
Yeah, stop days are because they're technically called stop days. I think they got nicknamed study days at some point. They're called stop days because you're supposed to stop all academic parts of the class. It's just supposed to stop. You're not supposed to have any meetings, any classes, anything due. It's just stopped.
Yeah.
And then there's a final.
Mm-hmm.
They just like erased the final portion though. And like they just made these final things the final.
But in a way, doesn't that help you I guess it only helps you if that's the one class that does it. But if they're all doing it, then you're got everything bumped up.
Yeah.
But then you're done early.
I still have a final on the last day, so I'm still gonna be
one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I have one on the first day, one on the last day.
Here's the best part about this conversation. No matter which way you slice it, you still have work to do.
Yeah.
It's not like one of these is better. They all suck. You just have to wrap it up.
It's a never-ending cycle up until December 15th.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like when you go into work. When you go into work, you don't have finals. You don't have anything like that. And you realize, oh my God, this is so much better. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute. It's just a nonstop, constant drip of work. Like I've got work, and then I've got work, and then I've got work, and then I've got work. I don't have like I'm building to something. Yeah. It's just a nonstop drip of work.
That's how it feels doing this podcast every week.
Oh my God, you're horrible. You know why?
This podcast is very interesting though, as like my work job. People are like, what do you do for on-campus like work? Like, well, I like host a podcast pretty much.
Yeah, you're a podcast producer. How awesome is that? No one else can say that.
It's pretty fun.
You said it with such sincerity.
No, it is. I think it's like an interesting, like, it's definitely like my good fun fact. Like people like, they're like, oh, so you climb and you're an engineer. And then my fun fact is that I also host a podcast.
I think you should add a little more credibility to that. You produce and host a podcast. The produce part is the hard part.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of help from everyone. So thank you, everyone.
You keep doing that. Yeah, I know. But you produce it. All right. Last topic, and then I will let you guys go. Before you leave LA, are there things that you want before you leave LA for the winter break? Are there things you want to do that are like awesome holiday winter experiences in LA before you leave? Is there something you've heard about, thought about, want to do?
Well, since I'm leaving,
I definitely want to go to like. Oh wait, no, you go for it, Mark.
Oh, I was just gonna say, since I'm leaving for the holidays, I definitely want to go skiing because I got the Icon Pass this year. I don't know if they have any
Oh, you
ski
got it.
resorts in Montgomery. So
I laugh and I realize I have no idea. I'm assuming they
I don't
do,
know.
but check out the Icon Pass. So you got
That's
the Icon
awesome.
Pass. That's Mammoth, right?
Yeah, Mammoth, Big Bear,
Emily,
couple Utah places.
yeah, I think,
Colorado. Okay,
yeah, because
whatever.
Emily's on Icon too, I think.
Yeah, I'm on Icon Pass too. So yeah, we should ski together. I have a car. So
I'd be down. I got my skis and I got everything, so except a car.
nice.
I'm a mooch on that front.
I got skis, I got boots, just don't got a car. Can't get there. I can get down the mountain, just can't get there.
It's nice in Colorado. You can take the train to the ski resorts. That would be kind of nice if we could do that.
That's sick.
What mountains in Colorado have Icon? Is it Snowbird?
I don't remember all of them.
No,
Snowbird.
Snowbird's in Utah. Sorry.
I was like, what? I think like Winter Park, Steamboat, Copper. I'm not sure about the other ones. Those are like the main ones I go to.
So I think in Utah, it's Park City and Snowbird,
And Deer Valley.
Deer Valley.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
But Mammoth is awesome though. Mammoth is great. What, 4 hours away?
Yeah, not so far. Really close to Bishop. So
You pass through Bishop, go to Shat's Bakery, get some bread. What's your go-to at Shat's? What do you always get?
oh. Well, actually, you don't know this about me. I'm gluten-free. So
I do know
don't
that. We talk
really-
about it, but don't they have gluten-free options?
They have nothing
What?
at Shat's. I think it's actually quite sad. But so I go to Shat's just for the vibes. But I've heard that the cheese bread is really good.
It is. It is. So your plans, Emily, Mark went.
I kind of want to go to like the Huntington Gardens. I don't know if you've been to the Hunting Botanical Gardens and Library. I saw a picture of it recently. It looks beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go there. And yeah, I just want to try some other boba places and stuff. I have like a few more on my list. Yeah.
Is it different from one place to the next?
Apparently, I'm not really like a boba connoisseur, so I couldn't really say. But my friends and I like compiled this list of like all these boba places that we want to try.
Okay.
And they're all very adamant that they're different and that some of them are better. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yesterday, though, I got boba and literally they filled the boba up to the top. I was like
Okay.
so appalled. It was like the entire thing was boba.
Is this supposed to be like the bottom, like third, bottom, like quarter?
Yeah,
Right?
the entire thing was boba. It was like a meal.
Ooh. Yeah, I can't do boba. I've tried it multiple times. It's just not a thing. Mark, is boba a thing for you?
It depends. If I'm in the mood, yes.
Oh my god.
Not like an
Like-
everyday type of thing, but I'll have it like once a month.
I just feel like I'm drinking something and then I'm like got something stuck in my teeth the whole time. It's just like not good.
In high school, like my
Um,
friends used to shoot them at each other, and I was like, "You gotta stop."
That sounds funny.
Oh,
That sounds about right. Well, yeah, though they have like a holiday lights thing at the Arboretum, the LA Arboretum. That's supposed to be really cool.
That would be super
And you need to
cool.
book tickets in advance. So you should check that out. That's supposed to be amazing. I've heard great things. There's also one near me over here at the South Coast Botanical Gardens that's supposed to be amazing. And we've been looking at trying to figure that out. But also there's the LA Zoo does holiday lights and they're supposed to be a lot of fun as well. So if you're looking, those are like the 3 big like holiday light things that we've been thinking about. They're supposed to be cool. And
Oh,
then
sick.
Dodger Stadium just did a thing, a holiday extravaganza. They put an ice skating rink in outfield. And so you can go skate outside at Dodger Stadium and there's a whole like winter experience. It's
Nice.
supposed to be
cool.
super fun.
These are awesome. I'm definitely gonna add these to my list.
Yeah, go do it. You got to buy tickets for each of these and it's supposed to be super fun. So check it out. Well, with that, I think we kept everybody on long enough and there's nothing else to talk about. I hope everybody has a fantastic winter break wherever they're doing it. If you haven't applied yet, you still have time to apply. January 15th is the final deadline for application consideration for first year applicants. So January 15th, if you're a transfer student, that's February 15th. So you got even longer. Don't even worry about that if you're transferring. But as an incoming first year student, your final application deadline is January 15th. Submit the Common App and the USC writing supplement no later than January 15th to be considered for first year admission for fall 2022. We will be closed. The Office of Admission, most of the university, in fact, will be closed starting our last day is December 17th. So this is kind of a first for us. We'll be closed until we come back for the new year. So starting December, our last day will be December 17th, and we will be back on Monday, January 3rd. So between January 20th, January 31st, December 20th, December 31st, we are not in the office. We are not working. Hopefully I'm not really checking email, but we may occasionally. If you have anything, you're going to wait to hear from us until after January. So I wish everybody a happy winter break and happy holidays, however you celebrate. And I hope you're all doing quite well. We look forward to seeing you in 2022. Thanks, everybody.